chapter 3, verse 1. After these events, sovereign Ahasuerus promoted Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and exalted him and seated him higher than all the princes with him. So this is an issue right here. Because of the ancestry of this person. And there's a few things that need to be said here or explained. When we see the ancestry of Mordechai, here it is. Son of Yair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, a Benjamite. So Kish, which means bent, and the asses of Kish, Saul's father, were lost. So look at this. And the asses of Kish, Shaul's father, were lost. Remember Shaul, who became the first king of Israel from Benjamin, was the son of Kish. And it says, what is this that is common to the son of Kish? Is Saul also among the prophets? Is Shaul also among the prophets? So we see that Shaul is called the son of Kish. He is the son of Kish. We have here that it says, and when King David came to Bahurim, behold, then came out a man of the family of the house of Shaul, whose name was Shimei. So we see the same name, although different person, most likely, because of the way it's being said. I'm just saying the name within the same family. So Mordechai was, as it says, the son of Yair, the son of Shimei, the son of Kish, the son of a Benjamite. So it's just saying a few names, not all of them, of course, from Mordechai to Benjamin, because it would be too many, or even Mordechai to Kish. It's just saying the main ones, either because of the deeds of these certain men, but also because of the revelation through the meaning of the names. So the point that I want to make is how Mordechai came from Kish, just like Shaul came from Kish. They were both from Benjamin. Remember, what was the reason why Shaul was taken out as king? Yahweh regretted putting him as king. Was because he disobeyed several occasions. But the main one and most detrimental to Israel was when he didn't kill the king of the Amalekites, when he didn't kill Agag, the king Hagag, and he took Agag, the king of the Amalekites, alive. Yahweh told Shaul to kill him, but he was left alive. So it says, but Shaul and the people spared Agag. Yahweh told him, kill him, mainly the king, and then the rest, but mainly the king. Yahweh promised the Amalekites that they would be completely destroyed because of what they have done. They have been very evil in history in many different ways. One of those, homosexuality and pedophilia, according to Judaism, and many other things against the congregation of Israel, even in the desert, being themselves descendants of Esau, right? Esau. So they needed to be destroyed in several times in history, but by people not obeying, like in this case, Shaul, he survived enough time to get his wife pregnant, who was able to flee. And from her came Haman. That's why we see Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. And this is very important to understand what was going on here, because this man will become, he was very wicked, and he would, and I'm bringing, spoiler alert, I'm sorry, he will try to destroy the people of Yahweh, the people of Israel. And this, we could say even the book of Esther would not have been written, the story and the danger that the people went through would not have happened if Shaul would have obeyed Yahweh. but he didn't. So this brought a lot of pain for the people in the future in many, several times, but this being one of the main ones. So we see also the contrast. Mordecai is the one who saves the king's life. It is written on a book, but he's not given anything. For whatever reason, the king didn't remember to reward Mordecai, at least not yet. Which also has to be for a reason. Yahweh has control over everything, and the times will be perfect. So this matter stays hidden. The good deed that Mordecai did stays hidden. And right away, the next verse, which is now in the first of the third chapter, we see that Haman is promoted. Mordecai is forgotten about for a while. So Mordecai is forgotten about, but another person comes up to the highest position in the kingdom other than the king, whom we don't know anything about other than, until now at least, he's a descendant of Agag, the one who was spared by Shaul when he disobeyed Yahweh. So he wouldn't be in the story. He wouldn't be part of history if Shaul would have obeyed. So that is important to understand. And that's why a descendant of Kish, just like Shaul was a descendant of Kish. So one coming from the same line is now appearing to rectify what Shaul did. So Shaul disobeyed. Now Mordecai needs to fix it. So with that understood, it is a possibility for Mordecai to be a reincarnation of Shaul in order to rectify his past disobedience. So just like Shaul and Agag are enemies, but Shaul disobeys, so he gives life, or allows Agag to remain alive. Then from him came Haman, and he is at the same time in the same kingdom as Mordecai, a descendant of Benjamin, Kish, Shimei, etc. All right, so I hope you understand the implications here and the connections, which are many. And now Shaul the king, then Mordecai, and then Shaul, Paulus. Shaul with the name of the king, and Paul, little man, with the meaning of Mordecai. Right? So I hope that's understood. And I believe it has a lot of connotations. So I'm just going to continue. If not, I'll just say more and more and more. But after these events, Sovereign Ahasuerus promoted Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite. So this is bad news, the promotion of these men. Now, since we already saw Bigtan and Teresh, and now Haman appears, we could connect Haman with Azazel, the last Satan, right? For Bigtan, remember, as the first beast, Teresh as the second beast, so as Samael and Halel. Then comes the image of the beast in Revelation 13, which is Azazel in a body. So that will be Haman in this case. And Haman means magnificent, right? He was exalted. So here we have it, magnificent. Now, I find interesting that is Haman, which could be interpreted as the manna, the man, which is Hebrew for manna. And you know that Azazel will try to take the place of the bread of heaven, which is Mashiach, the true manna. All right. So going back, Haman, the son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, and exalted him and seated him higher than all the princes with him. So he had the highest position all of a sudden. Right after Mordecai does a good deed, now his worst enemy becomes the most powerful person in the world. So I say that so that we may understand that Yahweh has control of things. There are reasons why the wicked are exalted in this world, but they will fall. And the higher they are, the harder they will fall. So that is pretty much the point here. And that is what we need to understand. When the wicked ones are put in high positions and seem to be untouchable, is just Yahweh put them in the place where what's coming for them is going to hurt the most, because the fall will be great, the fall from greatness. So Haman is being raised up in order to be brought down. And that's what we need to understand. But if we stay in the flesh and focus only in this reality, it will be hard, because there will be no understanding, and it will seem like it is unjust, right? That there is no justice, and that's why the wicked get the best positions. But it's all a matter of time, and that's why the Ruach gives us patience. So it says, and all the sovereign servants who were in the sovereign's gate bowed and did obeisance to Haman, for so the sovereign had commanded concerning him. But Mordecai would not bow or do obeisance, right? So he would not show any honor to Haman. He knew who he was, where he came from, his heart in a way, through the Ruach, of course. So he wouldn't bow down to him. And this is interesting. He would, and yeah, well, interesting in many ways. But one of them, remember that a few verses back, Mordecai saved the life of the king. The king said, everybody bowed down to Haman. Mordecai is not doing it. Pretty much showing that Mordecai was not, well, he was his own man. And he was faithful enough to save the life of the king, inform him of what was going on for him to save himself. But he was not going to go against his own people, his own mighty one, and dignity, in fact, as to bow down to this evil man. So, and the sovereign servants who were in the sovereign's gate said to Mordecai, why do you disobey the sovereign's command? So even though he has saved the life of the king, he's being seen here as a wicked person, one who doesn't obey the king. So this is important because, well, what I just said, Shaul disobeyed Yahweh. Now Mordecai, as a possible reincarnation of Shaul, or at least just rectifying what Shaul did, is being seen as someone who disobeys the king's commands, so as disrespectful and many other things. Just like the last will be seen as a heretic, as a disrespectful person towards the belief of Jesus and the church and whatever. So since Shaul disobeyed Yahweh, now Mordecai is seen as disobeying the king. And it came to be when they spoke to him daily, and he would not listen to them, that they told Haman to see whether the words of Mordecai would stand, for he had told them that he was a Yahudi. So look how they were, as they are nowadays, right? They're trying to cancel Mordecai already. So since Mordecai doesn't want to go along with what everybody's doing, they just follow what they are told without caring about righteousness. When they see that he's not doing it, they're jealous. They're angry because they don't have the same heart as Mordecai. They cannot do the same, so they want to break him since he's not doing what they are doing, right? So they go and told Haman, right? They are the snitches now. Remember how we were talking about the previous chapter? Mordecai told on Bigtan and Teresh to the king, but the king was in this context righteous, while the other two were unfaithful, betrayers, and all of that. So they needed to be told on. Now Mordecai is doing something that society doesn't like, so they go and talk to Haman, and they tell on him. So they are snitches because they're trying to get Mordecai hurt. And even more now that he told them that he's a Yahudi. right? So what I was talking about in the previous chapter, that's why Mordecai told Esther, don't tell anyone. When they realized he was a Yahudi, they were trying to get him hurt, to see whether the words of Mordecai would stand, for he had told them that he was a Yahudi. And when Haman saw that Mordecai did not bow or do obeisance, Haman was filled with wrath. Haman was filled with wrath. So this is amazing, and it shows the heart of the wicked, because the whole of the whole nation, the whole kingdom would bow down to Haman. There was only one person who wouldn't, and that one person was enough to get Haman all angry. That was enough to make Haman feel like nothing was worth it. Like everybody bowing down to him was worth nothing, while Mordecai didn't. So it says, but it was despicable in his eyes to lay hands on Mordecai alone. But it was despicable in his eyes to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had informed him of the people of Mordecai. So to him, and look at the word that is being used here, despicable. He thought it was despicable to only get him hurt, because when he found out he was a Yahudi, all of a sudden he wanted to destroy the whole nation. Because of Mordecai not bowing down, all of a sudden Haman wants to kill an entire nation. And that shows the lack of heart of the Agagites, and the reason why Yahweh said you need to destroy them. So you see, I repeat, the lack of heart. He found it despicable to just hurt Mordecai. He wanted to destroy his entire nation. But it was despicable in his eyes to lay hands on Mordecai alone, for they had informed him of the people of Mordecai. Therefore, Haman sought to destroy all the Yahudim who were throughout all the reign of Ahasuerus, the people of Mordecai. So, as I was saying, although in the earthly perspective, everything seemed to be going bad in a way, because now Esther, who was an orphan, a believer, a wise woman, now she was the queen in a Gentile kingdom with a Gentile man. So, in fact, in Judaism, it is said that she wasn't that happy. She was feeling bad that she was forced to marry a Gentile, even though he was king. So, in a way, that could be seen as herself, well, as a, although most women would be happy in this world, in this society, to become queens and to become the wives of Ahasuerus in this case, Esther was so with the Father and the truth that she didn't care about those things. So she felt it was wrong to be with a Gentile husband. On the other hand, Mordecai is the one who saves the king, but it's Haman who is exalted to the highest position. And now Mordecai is in trouble because he doesn't want to bow down. So now, because of Mordecai's actions, for him disobeying the king, now the entire people are in trouble, like showing that when Shaul disobeyed Yahweh, he put the entire nation in danger. That's why he had to be taken out as a king and replaced by David. That king or reign from David comes through Mashiach. So now the last comes as Paul, but accepts Yahushua, so becomes one with him. So now he is able to destroy the Amalekites, as Yahweh promised that he would do in the end times. So finally we'll fix everything that the disobedience of Shaul provoked. Now, so everything seemed to be going from bad to worse. Esther was an orphan, now is the wife of a Gentile. Mordecai saved the king, but he's the one in trouble now. And not only him, he's going to be blamed for the death of his entire nation. But Yahweh was working everything. behind the scenes. And that's why before this happened, Yahweh made sure that Esther became queen. So she will be close to the king in order to have influence. She found favor, of course, that's why she was chosen, so she would be heard. And second, when Mordecai saved the life of the king, that was written on a book. Yahweh was putting it in record, pretty much, that Mordecai had done something, so that when the time comes in future chapters, the king would realize and end up helping Mordecai. And I'm getting ahead of myself just to explain how everything that in the flesh, in the earthly perspective, would seem to go bad, to be going very bad as the tribulation, Yahweh behind the scenes is working things out. And in fact, those things that would be seen as bad were actually the things that Yahweh was doing in order to save the people at the end. But that's why the people need to trust Yahweh, that he has control, even though to our perspective may look bad. So therefore, Haman sought to destroy all the Yahudim who were throughout all the reign of Ahashverosh, the people of Mordechai. In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, that is the name given since the exile in Babylon, Yahweh called the month Aviv, but in Babylon was given the name Nisan, that is the month in which Mashiach died for our sins. In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of sovereign Ahashverosh, someone cast Pur, that is the lot, before Haman from day to day and from month to month until it fell on the 12th month, which is the month of Adar. So he's throwing Purim, lots, to see what month, according to luck, according to fortune, what month he would be helped, or what month would be the best in order to kill the entire nation of the Yahudim. And he did it for 12 months, starting from the first, and the last month ended up being the one chosen by Lot. Now that is similar, and the connection I'm making it because, well, you'll see. Remember when Joseph, who was sold as a slave in Egypt, well, not in Egypt, he was sold, but then again in Egypt, he, when his brothers came to buy food, and then they brought Benjamin, just like Benjamin is the ancestor of Mordechai. When they brought Benjamin, Joseph put his cup in the sack of Benjamin. And then he accused him of being a thief. That is to represent that the last, like Benjamin was the last son of Jacob, the last would come as a thief in the night. And that's why Mashiach, who was sold by Yehuda, just like Joseph was sold by Yehuda, Mashiach said that he wanted to pass the cup. So by Joseph putting his cup in Benjamin's sack of wheat, that was represented Mashiach passing the cup to the last, and then him coming as a thief in the night. Benjamin, the last son of Jacob, is the ancestor of Mordechai. And now we have that because of Mordechai, Haman is looking to destroy an entire nation. He throws lots throughout the 12 months, like the 12 tribes, and he finds that the 12th month is the one in which he should do it. Just like when they went and checked all the sacks of wheat that they had, and they went from the first to the last of the sons of Jacob, and he was in the last, therefore the 12th, that they found the cup. So they found the cup, which represents the death of Mashiach, and the last, they found it in the sack of the last son to represent that the last would come and die. But in this case, we see that when they came to the last month, the 12th month, they found that that would be the month in which they could kill an entire nation because of Mordechai. Then it says, Haman then told sovereign Ahashverosh, there is a certain people. So when he he first went and did what he did. Pretty much, he used fortune. He asked Lucifer, luck, when he could kill a nation. And then he went and started to manipulate the king in order to get his will done. So Haman then told sovereign Ahasuerus, there is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of your reign. You see how it says scattered and dispersed, just as we are nowadays, scattered and dispersed throughout the four corners of the earth, among the people in all the provinces of your reign, whose laws are different from all people, for we are set apart. Now, the rest of the laws in one way or another come from our laws, but they were changed or whatever. But my point is that we were given the law by the Most High. So that is the greatest law. Then the nations have tried to copy or do something similar. And I say similar, they don't want the same, because the same would mean not sin. And they want to sin, but want to keep order. So they put some laws in order to keep the order, but by not being righteous, order doesn't last. So it says, whose laws are different from all people. As you guys know, when we come to the Father and the Son, we start speaking different, even acting, which we should, acting different than we used to or than others do. So then we are seen by others as weird, crazy, or whatever. But the way Haman is putting things here to the king is to make him feel like these people should be destroyed. So it says, whose laws are different from all people, and they do not do the sovereign's laws. Therefore, it is not in the sovereign's interest to let them remain. So it would be like saying these people, they follow the law of their Most High. They don't follow the law of the world, right? And of course, we respect authority. We respect righteous laws. But when it comes to the dictatorship that the New World Order wants to be, and how they try to manipulate everybody into doing things and eventually force them to do whatever the government wants, that is not something heavenly. So we reject that, of course. So we will be seen as rebels. And they do not do the sovereign's laws. Therefore, it is not in the sovereign's interest to let them remain. If it pleases the sovereign, let a decree be written to destroy them. So you see how he's manipulating the king. He's not explaining everything. He's just saying these people, they are dispersed. They have a different law. They disobey you. They should be destroyed. Just let me do it. Don't worry about it. I'll handle it. Right? So if it pleases the sovereign, let a decree be written. Now, it is interesting that in this kingdom, as we are about to see, when a law was passed, there was no way to get rid of that law, change it, or destroy it. You couldn't do it. And that's one of the reasons why Ahasuerus and the kingdom represents the kingdom of Yahweh, and Ahasuerus, Yahushua, who is the word of Yahweh. The word of Yahweh doesn't come back to him empty. It fulfills what it was sent to do. So a law given by Yahweh cannot be changed. So Yahweh gave the Torah. And since it cannot be changed, since people couldn't fulfill it, he had to appear himself and fulfill it and be killed in order to receive the reward of fulfilling the law. So he himself couldn't change it, obviously, because he follows the law. But to put it in terms like in this kingdom, earthly kingdom, Yahweh didn't change the law. He came to fulfill it, even though it meant him suffering and dying, his son. So the law of Yahweh is represented by the law that we see here, that once a law was signed or sealed, it was it. It couldn't be changed or destroyed. So that's why Haman is trying to get him to seal a decree to destroy these people, because it is like the accuser who uses the law to try and destroy us. So it's like saying the law says that he who sins needs to die, so I need to kill them all. It's pretty much what Satan did. So Satan, by being the accuser, has been trying to get the people of Yahweh killed. Azazel, as the abomination of desolation, will manifest to do the desolation, to kill everybody he can, everybody who doesn't worship him. So if it pleases the sovereign, let a decree be written to destroy them, and let me pay 10,000 talents. It is said that Haman was extremely wealthy, even more than the king, some say in Judaism. So here we see how he is using his money to try and buy the king himself. Right? Not only doesn't give him all the details, he even says, I will invest. Don't worry about it. You won't even have to spend anything. I will do it. So, and let me pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who do the work to bring it into the sovereign's treasuries. So he's even paying the king, giving the money to the king to do this, making everything look so nice and making himself look all, well, like a good servant, or as if he was worried about the kingdom or the king. When in fact, what Haman was planning to do eventually was take the kingdom for himself. He actually wanted to take Ahasuerus's place, just like Azazel wants to take Mashiach's place, and that's why he's the false Messiah or Antichrist, he who wants to place himself as the Messiah. The sovereign took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman. Now this is crazy, because the signet ring was the power and authority to sign or seal laws, decrees. That power was given into the hand of Haman, just like Yahweh allowed during the time of history the three Satans to receive power over this reality, Samael, Hillel, and Azazel. But at the end, Yahweh takes it from them and gives it to Mashiach. In this case, the last, remember that in Haggai chapter 2, we have that it says, speak to Zerubbabel, he who was sown in Babel, he who was born in confusion, referring to the last, the prodigal son, the governor of Yahudah, he who would become the king, saying, I am shaking the heavens and the earth. That is something that Yahweh said to Noah, and the days of the Son of Man would be like the days of Noah. Just like Yahweh shook the heavens and the earth, he's about to do it again. Last time he did it with water, now he's about to do it with fire, as it is written also in scriptures, other parts. I am shaking the heavens and the earth, and I shall overturn the throne of reigns, and I shall destroy the might of the reigns of the nations, and overturn the chariots and their riders, and the horses and their riders shall come down, each by the sword of his brother. In that day, declares Yahweh of hosts, I shall take you, Zerubbabel, my servant, son of Shealtiel, declares Yahweh, and shall make you as a signet, for I have chosen you, declares Yahweh of hosts. So the last will become the actual ring used by Yahweh to sign into law his word in this reality. Just like the last is represented by the throne, the Ark of the Covenant, also the ring. So just another way of seeing it is that Yahweh will give the ring to the last. The ring that was in the power of the enemy will take it from him and give it to the last. Just like when Joseph was given authority over Egypt from Pharaoh, he was given the ring. And the last is a descendant of Joseph, represented by Zerubbabel in this case. For through Yahushua, he becomes a Yahudi. And that's why now is represented by Mordechai, a Yahudi from Benjamin, representing the last. So, and the sovereign took his signet ring from his hand and gave it to Haman, son of Hammedatha, the Agagite, the enemy of the Yahudim. So you see how he's being called directly the enemy of the Yahudim. And that's why it is mentioned that he is from Agag, once again, to show that he is the enemy. That is verse 10. Soreir HaYahudim, the enemy of the Yahudim. And the sovereign said to Haman, the silver and the people are given to you to do with them as seems good to you. And the sovereign said to Haman, the silver and the people are given to you to do with them as seems good to you. So at the end, the king gave him everything to go and do it. And the sovereign scribes were called on the 13th day of the first month. This is important. On the 13th day of the first month. Let's go to the calendar for a moment. And I know we, like I would say, we have the calendar both in English and Spanish in the website. I just don't remember the English one where it was. So I'll just put it here. You see how Aviv, which is called Nisan, you see the Nisan right on the at the bottom. I put at the bottom the names. Okay, above we have the names of the months, but there are some who were not given a name in the scriptures by Yahweh, but were given a name later in Babylon. So I put up here Aviv, Siv, Eitanim, and Bul, which was were the names given by Yahweh. The other names, Sivan, Av, Elul, Kislev or Kislev, Tevet, Shevat, Adar, and these four under here, Nisan, Iyar, Tishri, and Mar Cheshvan, those were given in Babylon. So it says that they were called the scribes on the 13th, which is right here, right? The day right before Pesach. This is very important to remember. They were called on the day before Pesach, for Pesach is on the 14th, right? So, and the sovereign scribes were called on the 13th day of the first month. And a decree was written according to all that Haman commanded. And the viceroy of the sovereign, and to the governors who were over each province, and to the officials of all people, to every province according to his writing, and to every people in their language, it was written in the name of sovereign Ahashverosh and sealed with the sovereign's signet ring. So he had the authority of the king, and he used it to write a law that would allow the people of Israel to be killed. And the letters were sent by numbers into all the sovereign's provinces. I mean, by runners, my bad. And the letters were sent by runners into all the sovereign's provinces to cut off, to kill, and to destroy. Cut off, kill, and destroy, like what Samael, Hillel, and Azazel want. And also it mentions 3 ways to kill, because remember that the number 3 is connected to the many who will be killed. The number 3 represents the many. The number 1 represents the few, the chosen few. So to cut off, to kill, and to destroy all the Yahudim, both young and old, little children and women, in one day, on the 13th day of the 12th month, which is what he got when he threw lots. On the 13th day of the 12th month, which is the month of Adar, and to plunder their possessions. So this was, other than the hate that the nations had for us, the fact that they were allowed to take their possessions was what would become like their payment. Like pretty much like through this, many people would want to go and do harm in order to become the owners of the possessions of Israel. So we see that just like we should become better and better with time and see the examples of our ancestors in order to be better even than them if possible, right? Which sometimes it's hard or impossible. But we are supposed to get better with time. The same happens with the enemy and evil. They become more and more wicked with time. So we see how Cain killed Abel. Then Cam made sure that his father could not have more children, so that the land would not be separated into 4 or more children. So it would just be the 3 of them, Cam, Shem, and Yafet. Then came, well, many other evil, wicked men, like, for instance, the Pharaoh who decided to kill the children of the Israelites. So we see that it gets worse and worse. They decided to kill the children of the Israelites, the males. Now, Haman is saying, let's just kill everybody. children, male and females, old and young, anybody will be killed from the people. So we see that it gets worse and worse with time, and the wicked men try to do more harm than the ones before them. We see that just like Israel was able to take riches from Egypt right before the Exodus, now Haman is kind of trying to take it back, like saying, kill them and take everything from them. And interestingly enough, that decree is being written one day before Pesach, which is Pesach, when the lamb was sacrificed so that the people would go out the next day on the 15th from Egypt during the Exodus. So we see another connection with the Exodus. A copy of the writing to be made law in every province was published for all people to be ready for that day. The runners went out, hastened by the sovereign's command, and the decree was given out in the citadel of Shushan. The sovereign and Haman then sat down to drink. So Haman was ready to celebrate, and he did it with the sovereign, who didn't know what he was doing. The sovereign and Haman then sat down to drink, but the city of Shushan was in confusion. In confusion, the city of Shushan, because of the letter. Now everybody was confused, and obviously Israel was scared, worried, while the king and Haman were just celebrated. The rest of the city was in confusion, like in the apostasy, because of the false doctrines of demons, so on and so forth. So that's how the chapter ends.